We got the big W himself, Walt Mossberg, and he's going to weigh in on the Dell Ultrabook, the new one anyway, and he joins us now from Washington, D.C. Walt, it's a little bit dark there, but we can still see you. The Dell Ultrabook, compact, right? Tell us more.
Well, I first want to say that Apple could take that $100 billion and buy everyone an iPad, Simon. I think that would solve it.
Yeah, that's great.
I wonder if shareholders would rather have the iPad instead of dividends.
An iPad or dividends. Yeah, well, it's great. It's a lot of money, $100 billion. Actually, before we get into your segment, do you think they should give some of this money back? When you invest in a stock, you are not investing in someone to manage cash. You can put that in the bank and they do a fine job and it's insured. Shouldn't they be giving the money back?
You know what? It's a really interesting question. I'm not an investment expert, and I don't own any tech stocks, and I don't own any Apple stock, but I will say that it kind of depends what they do with it. I mean, if they use it to make strategic acquisitions that push the business forward and push technology forward, that might be a good thing for everyone, customers, shareholders, employees. And they don't have to do just one thing, right? They could do a dividend, they could do some acquisitions, so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, they could buy me an iPad. Oh, Lauren.
Okay, now let's get to Dell.
Dell, go for it.
This is really interesting. You know, before Steve Jobs revived Apple, Michael Dell was once asked, what would he do if he were in the shoes of the people running Apple? And he said, I'd close it and give the money back to the shareholders. But that was a long time ago, and market caps have changed quite a bit between Dell and Apple. And Dell has struggled in the last few years to maintain a consumer business, a business for average consumers. I'm not talking about enterprises. So now they're making another push for consumers, and they have brought out their first Ultrabook, and I liked a lot about it. It has one really interesting twist, and you know, all these Ultrabooks are thin and light, and they start up quickly, and they use solid-state drives, and they're all in the tradition of the MacBook Air, which came out in 2008, the Apple MacBook Air. But Dell has done something slightly different in this one. This is called the XPS 13. They have taken an Ultrabook with a 13-inch screen, and they've shrunken the length and width to a point where it actually looks a little more like it should be an 11 or 12-inch screen, and it's noticeably smaller in length and width than most of any of its competitors I've seen, and yet it does have the full 13-inch screen and a good keyboard.
Now, well, this computer did have a deal breaker. Dude, it had a deal breaker. Tell us what that was.
What could be a deal breaker for a lot of people. You know, I've been doing a standard battery test, Lauren, for, I don't know, Lauren, since you were probably in middle school. I have no idea. I've been doing the same test on every laptop, and so it's very consistent. And this Dell XPS 13 turned in quite a weak battery test result in my testing. It lasted you know, under 4 hours, and that was about an hour less than, let's say, the Lenovo Ultrabook, which I tested a few months ago, and about 2 hours less than the MacBook Air. Now, in normal use, you'll do better than in my very harsh test, but I don't think given my test, my guess is you wouldn't get more than about 5 hours of battery life out of this, and for an Ultrabook, which typically they claim 7 or 8 hours of battery life, that is not great. And for some people, that will be a deal breaker, particularly because this is a $1,000 computer.
Well, which gets to the next point.
I have to tell you something, by the way. That battery test that Walt does is the stuff of legends.
Okay.
It really is. Like when we were at the Consumer Electronics Show this year, and we saw lots of Ultrabooks, and people would start to demo them, and they would say, oh, well, this one has X amount of battery life. And I would say, is that the standard test, or is that Walt's test? Because that's different.
So this is the harsh the battle test. This is the sort of the war zone test, the Walt test. Walt, though, the price is you know, why would you go with this if it's the same price as a MacBook?
Well, it's not. It's The MacBook Airs do start at $999, Simon, but that's an 11.8-inch screen.
Okay.
This is a 13.3-inch screen, and the comparable 13.3-inch screen MacBook Air is $300 more. So this is less expensive than Apple. Most of the Windows Ultrabooks are less expensive than the MacBook Air. It's not a shock that Apple sells premium-priced computers. I think the Windows side of the industry, which has been kind of in slow growth or even no growth mode, is anxious to get these Ultrabooks, which are its hope to spur sales, to get them down closer to $700 if they can. But in this early round, which began in the holiday season with just a handful and now is picking up steam, they're all still clustered around the $1,000 level.
Well, 700 would be very good. Very quickly, you said you were annoyed by the function keys on the top row. Very quickly, tell us about that, because I think that's important.
Okay, so function keys used to just be F1, F2, and you use them in various programs. Now, on most of these computers, as you know, they also have another function on many of the keys. They control the brightness, they control the volume, they control the play pause if you're doing a video or music. And the question is, when you hit them, what are they going to do? Which of the two things are they going to do? And Dell has chosen to stick with the old-fashioned F function thing instead of the more consumery brightness and volume controls and so forth. If you want those, you have to hold down a separate key and then hit the function key. You can change it. There's a setting where you can change it, but the question is, what is it like out of the box? And I talked to the Dell folks, and they acknowledged that they had to make a call, and they made this call, but they say they are considering changing the out-of-the-box behavior on those keys.
Okay, well, so maybe that'll change before anyone gets one. Thank you very much. Walt Mossberg, the big W himself, weighing in on that, and check that out in today's paper or on WSJ.com.